Hey guys, Day One Loser here, and yes, I'm tired of making TikTok pity content. So starting from today, I'm gonna be doing educational content. Now, the purpose of this video is to explain to you why you're a lonely and miserable chud. Now, this is going to come from a lot of first-hand experience, so I'm not really going to be diving into a lot of science and stats and graphs and whatever Mr. Finkelstein says is true. Instead, I'm going to be using 1% of my brain power as a 2.1 GPA student to come to a conclusion that makes sense to me, using grassroots knowledge or my intuition. Starting with the big question of what makes our society so uniquely miserable to live in? And in my opinion, there are three pillars holding up this hellscape we call postmodern society, and it's nihilism, materialism, and safety. And I'll explain each one of these in a second, but it's important to strip away all you know about these words because at the end of the day, they're all just words. What I'm trying to get at here is the wider idea and its effects on our culture. So I can say something complicated but accurate, like it's existential egoism or something, but nobody's gonna understand that. And also, it doesn't even matter because it's all the same. They're all connected. Nihilism basically means that there is no higher meaning. Everything you see and everything you touch, that's all that really matters in this world. It also means chuds like you and I, we can't think about anything that can't be measured. If we can't observe it, if we can't interact with it, it's not real. If you can't name me 10 facts about Charlie Kirk right now, shut the So you see how it shifts the focus to the self? It's all about you now. You should do whatever you want. You should go discover yourself, girl. Go out there and discover yourself. Travel the world. Divorce your husband of 10 years. Get tattoos. Get hooked up on SSRIs because that's how you become happy, girl. That's how you discover yourself. This is the subconscious ideology underpinning our society. And we can call ourselves atheists or Christians or whatever, but at the end of the day, if you want a nice Lamborghini and you think about yourself all day, you believe this. And all you Redditards can say that this isn't actually nihilism. Can you stop being so autistic? Materialism. I think we all know what materialism is. It's chasing after money, nice cars, designer clothes. Basically what rappers rap about. But I want to add on to that and say it's not strictly just the material, but worldly desires. So I would say attention, validation, status, and power all play a part in this. And what's one thing they all have in common? It's that they're empty. Once you chase these things, you feel empty inside. You may even say it corrupts the soul. It's like that Ice Age squirrel chasing the acorn. At the end of the day, they're all just gonna be acorns. Because the game with these things is to continue chasing more of itself. And that turns you inwards and makes you, for a lack of a better word, autistic. And maybe the reason why we feel so empty after chasing these things is that subconsciously we know that ultimately these things will leave us unfulfilled in the end. We can look from an observer lens at the squirrel chasing the acorn and we can laugh at him and we can pity him because he's chasing such a dumb and stupid item. Except we do the exact same thing. Safety. For this one, we really need to ask ourselves the question, do we really live longer? I mean, sure, we live longer in years, but think about how you're supposed to use those years. Earning a wage, trading your hours for money, networking, aka having shallow conversations with someone and you're both trying to determine the use of each other. I would argue these things make you want to kill. Now, I'm gonna lay out a theory here and it's gonna be pretty wild, but it kills the sigmas of a society. I know that sounds cringe, but hear me out. In history, there has always been men who traded their safety for the vast oceans, the winding roads, the verdant forests. They wanted freedom no matter the cost. They stepped outside the herd and through their sheer courage managed to earn a living for themselves by breaking the rules. So think of mercenaries, pirates, outlaws. These life paths were dangerous but offered freedom, true freedom. And this kept power in check because it broke the illusions of the elite. So you can see why as an elite, you'd see these people as being a real pain in the ass. Not only are they not productive, but they fuck around in their prime and die off in their 30s, so you can't even put them to use afterwards. And as I said, they break the thin illusions of the elites because the rigid status quo only works if the people believe it and fear it. But people like this call their bluffs for what it is. They step outside the herd and live lives of true freedom and show people that these rules ultimately are meaningless. What killed this lifestyle is regulation and, for a lack of a better word, toxic masculinity. Now, I know this is some word invented by the establishment, but just use it as a placeholder. Everything that men naturally think is wrong, it's violent, it's evil, it's dark. You're not allowed to think those things. You're not allowed to be a man, but a dog on a leash in today's society. You go to school, they teach you to obey the rules. You go to work, and they teach you to kiss ass. There is nothing in modern society that calls to the spirit of a hero, the best that a man can be. In fact, in modern society, you are probably more incentivized to be a dishonest scumbag. Gambling, video games, pornography, all of these things are targeted towards sedating men. The combination of all of these things is meant to create a dumb, complacent, isolated, and autistic society. It destroys the connection we have with one another, where we all argue about pointless and meaningless things like gender pay gap, or abortion, or gay marriage. It makes it so that we can't agree on anything. This video itself is probably going to get a bunch of hate comments saying I'm a dumb retard, but that's just the name of the game. You can't say anything without getting flack for it nowadays, because people are too hooked on their emotions. Their worldview is so tied to their emotions, and it acts as like a cage. It's like a reflex. When you say something these people don't like, it's like a reflex for them to just hate on you. We also live in a world where people are hyper specialized. People become firefighters, doctors, biological chemical engineers, feminist studies professors. This naturally incentivizes people to live and breathe their niche. If you don't get that promotion, it's game over. If you don't pass that test, it's game over. College undergrads are probably talking about the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell or some dumb shit like that. Investment bros are talking about gay monkey coin. Ordinary people don't understand these things, but that's how the game is set up. To divide people so that everyone is living in their own little bubbles and they can't see the wider picture. It's the bread and circus, except everyone has their own circuses. Okay, but what's the solution, right? I laid out all of these problems. It's all doom and gloom. Well, there's one civilization in history that was the complete opposite of ours, and I would argue the peak of human civilization, and that is ancient Athens. In Athens, every citizen had a stake in their community. They had to participate in how the government was being led. Politicians were randomly chosen from ordinary citizens to make sure they didn't have ulterior motives and could relate to the ordinary people. Unlike today, where it feels like politicians were groomed to lie and deceive. They exaggerate their promises, and once it fails, they place the blame on someone else. Athenian men also were expected to have courage. They were expected to pick up the broadsword when the times deemed it. Not by signing your soul away on a contract, but collectively, as men, picking up your pitchforks and your knives to go fight in a shared experience. The education was also meant to create well-rounded individuals. They taught philosophy and art so that people had a wide perspective, a wide, broad view of society. Unlike today, where it feels like you have to be autistic to succeed in school. You have to sit down for 6 hours studying this meaningless topic like a slave. This made Athenian people generalists. They were able to draw from shared experiences and were able to relate with each other. They also viewed jobs as a necessary evil to get over with. Not like today where we view it as like hustle culture, where we have to grind until we get financial freedom. And guess what? When you're not constantly thinking about taxes, paperwork, and homework, you can actually see how the world is moving, how the culture is shifting, what games are being played at the top. This all culminated into one cohesive society where people were in tune with each other. They also shared a common mythology. They didn't have to go to church on Sundays to learn about it. It was ingrained in their very culture. Children would learn about great heroes in this mythology. Jokes were made in reference to the gods. It was part of everyday life. You really couldn't avoid it, and you really didn't have to learn it. You just picked up on it. This made it so that people had a common shared morality. They didn't worry about a random dude on a subway stabbing you in the neck with a knife. Some may say the only reason why their society could work was because of their reliance on slavery. Well, guess what? AI is literally taking all of our jobs and replacing us. So what's the excuse now? To sum it up, you're a miserable and lonely chud because the system was designed that way. With a lack of real human connection and genuinity, no wonder why the divorce rates are so high. No wonder why people are being single. No wonder why the birth rates are falling. Because the system simply just doesn't work. But who knows, I might just be going insane, but it's my categorical imperative to be as I'd wish society to be. And I think that even dumbasses like me should speak their mind, because that's how we get to a more open and honest society. I don't believe in smarter people. I don't believe in dumber people. I believe that people make mistakes, and people sometimes have a stroke of genius, and we can't decipher which is which. We're terrible judges of ourselves. The idea that you have to be smart in order to say anything makes it so that the only people who get to say anything are the ones who have opinions that are most tied to their emotions. And that's how we get to today's society, makes it so that people with the most ego talk the most. So I encourage you, even if you think you're a dumbass, to speak your mind. Because as long as you're aiming for the truth, in every chud, there's a gem.